The brat was fuming, losing his mind because they couldn't stop a single guy. If they kidnapped him, they'd all be screwed that day. Our hero thought it was all over and started sprinting. If he could just reach the back door, he'd finally be free. Just as I found the location, that restless and dark feeling inside simply wouldn't go away. A motorcycle was on his tail, and in seconds it blocked the way to the door like an impassable iron wall. The guy on the bike got off and harshly asked our main character if he was the one who mistook his girlfriend. Stunned, this weird pervert asked if the main character was handsome and muttered that she loves cute things. While our guy couldn't make sense of the man's nonsense, a bunch of guys who looked like extras appeared right behind him. The man asked if they had lost to this brat, said he'd show them some love, and ordered them to wait a second. But the kid wanted to handle this mess himself. At that moment, with a threatening look on his face as if he might explode, he ordered them not to touch Gilsu. Gilsu realized right then that he was the head of Jinsong's school. Plus, he was shorter and had less muscle than Chong. Gilsu got hyped, thinking he could easily take down this dwarf. He shouldn't have wasted any time. He lunged forward and swung a left hook, but the man dodged it easily, as if dancing. He said he found it very cute that Adam made the first move. It suddenly caught our main character in seconds. Terrified by the boy's power, he grabbed our hero by the collar and slammed him hard onto the ground like a floor mat. With no intention of resting, that creep slammed him back down, literally begging to play a little more. Gilsu was terrified, thinking he was going to die. Since the man hadn't passed out yet, he was toying with him like cat and mouse. While he was pressing for more, our hero suddenly planted his foot right in the middle of the guy's face. He questioned why this dwarf calls everyone handsome and shouted that the guy is actually a total idiot. The guy literally went ballistic after what he heard. Watching in total shock, the other kid thought the main character wanted to commit suicide. He knew well that his senior was always picked on as a kid because of his short stature. After that day, no one would dare use the word cute. Gilsu couldn't understand why the atmosphere suddenly turned ice cold. He tried to throw a punch but was instantly locked down. The other kid whispered that he'd personally take the main character to hell. Our breathless hero could neither move nor catch his breath. Despair seeped into his very bones. Then that psycho thanked me for the feast. The other man quietly whispered that the real madness had only just begun. This technique was called the shock triangle in hell. The captured victim couldn't move a muscle in front of this monster. Then she asked that creep if the main character was still handsome. At that moment, Gilsu thought this fight was the most terrifying of his life and seriously believed he would actually die right there. Right then, the kids were in total shock. Because our hero couldn't just wait like a victim, so he lifted the man into the air. But at that exact second, the guy moved with incredible agility right into the protagonist's blind spot, behind him. He sneakily grabbed him by the throat from behind. He said the record for losing consciousness in Jinsong was only 7 seconds. Gilsu was now on the verge of fainting from pain. He had to hold on. He didn't have the luxury of resting. He could never stomach losing to these fools, but in the end, his body failed him. The man let the boy go, saying he had a lot of fun. The other brat was secretly glad the attention was off them. They had to seize this golden opportunity and vanish instantly without looking back. While being dragged across the floor by that creep, Gilsu was miraculously still conscious. He remembered the old days when he was bullied. He thought of those disgusting games where they placed bets on his oppressors and watched to see how long he'd last. They were enjoying his pain. In that hell, he only managed to survive by shielding his throat with his finger. Gripping a stone, the boy charged in a rage, muttering that this was how the weak survive. This would be his final blow. He was filled with pure hatred, born from the terrible suffering he endured in the past. He hit the guy right in the face with his stone and started running. He felt a surge of joy from managing to knock it over. His only goal was to reach that door, but the psychopath wasn't knocked out yet and was quickly right on our hero's tail. Right then, a terrifying aura appeared between them. Chong had finally come to help. He roared a reminder to those maniacs that attacking him meant declaring war on all 6 gates. The guy across said he's dying to fight Chong and claimed the era now belongs only to Jin Sang. Chong punched the guy in seconds. These disgusting and pathetic manners are exactly what I'd expect from Jean Sang's brats. These losers who couldn't make any progress only learned their lesson when they got beaten, but Gilsu had already moved past that naive stage. Only the final step remained, agreeing to meet tomorrow in the attic. And the morning of that awaited big day has finally
gelip
arrived.
çattı.
Although our hero seemed to be going to school very peacefully, some unpleasant problems and annoying people followed him in the early morning. The last day was approaching for poor Sulla, who was ordered to come to the arena after school. Park kept questioning the reality of Jin's broken arm. He was mocking him, claiming he was either pathetic or just faking an injury because he was too scared to fight. He couldn't stand how the boy, who was just acting all tough, was now quiet as a mouse, so he pressured him to at least say something. He was manhandling the kid, roughly reminding him to know his place. Then what happened right after was truly sickening. He squeezed the broken arm with such fury that he seemed surprised it didn't shatter, claiming he'd only accidentally stepped on it. Jean tried to remind him of the school rules, but Park didn't care about them one bit. Right then, someone appeared on stage. Our protagonist suddenly appeared to stop the attack. Zero realized he had no time left to train with Chong, and his patience finally snapped. This bully, thinking he ruled everything by inviting Park directly to the arena, was frozen in shock by what he heard. It was weird for hours to show up again. He was already starting to wonder about his arm and what he was secretly up to on his own. But our hero shoved Park's hand aside, firmly declaring once more that the real score would be settled in the arena. Then, bursting into laughter, Park wonders where this brat gets such courage. He found this situation quite entertaining. The fact that he wanted to get beaten up in the arena seemed hilarious to her. He loved that his victim walked straight into their own death. Still, this offer was exciting. They were going to meet there. He was going to give him a taste of just how brutal today's fighting arena could be. A while after the boy left, while Chom waited for Gilsu in the attic, the former referee suddenly appeared beside him. There was a sense of unease in the voice of the man who came there and asked if he knew who had just set off for the arena. Sun and Kong were heading to the arena. It was said that if they didn't stop this trend, things would reach a point of no return. But Chom only laughed at all these serious warnings. To him, this chaos was extremely interesting. The young man, thinking the arena was on the verge of ruin, was disappointed by Chang'en's indifferent attitude. Chom argued that competition in the arena is ensured not by bans, but by an opposing force. Just as a dirty river cleanses itself, this filthy arena could only be changed through the unwavering will and strength of a single person. Everything was going to be very different now. Meanwhile, the rumor mill was churning with talk of Gilsu challenging the Park. Park thought ours was just showing off. Plus, his arms were bandaged, so he'd clearly been training in secret. That's why Park was determined to finish him off for good this time. But Khan didn't seem so sure about this.
Park.
Seeing his hesitation, Park asked if something was wrong. Khan reminded them that dealing with this kid would bring no benefit, and that Chong should be their real target, but Park wouldn't listen. Park said he was going to disable one of that boy's arms forever. But Kong feared that others would draw courage from this. If everyone thought they could just challenge the Park arena, years of hard work could vanish and turn to ash in an instant. That's why Park had to win a flawless victory. He should never have let his guard down because this brat might turn out to be more stubborn than he thought. Meanwhile, a group of people were reminding our boy that it was impossible for him to beat Park, even the genie couldn't do it, and told him to come to his senses. Gilsu, on the other hand, was questioning whether she was being impulsive or not, feeling the weight of breaking her senior's word and missing training on her shoulders. Then the genie asked him to call off the fight. Even if he had worked with Chom, fighting a monster like Park was nothing short of suicide. Since he was new at school, he wasn't aware of the danger. Park was a piece of garbage involved in all kinds of shady business outside of school. He should have stayed out of this fight, because once the demon recovered, he already planned to take down this bully with his own hands. But Gilsu could never accept this. Because the Jin ended up like this, suffering just to protect her. He'd been crushed and ignored all his life, turned into nothing more than a circus clown for people's amusement. He didn't want to be that weak kid anymore. His first real test would be that Park that made the cafeteria feel like a prison. He knew how big of a risk he was taking, but there was no turning back. And finally, that tension-filled night has arrived. As the rumor mill turned, word of our hero's secret training got everyone hyped for the fight. Our unfortunate protagonist had been ignored his entire life and treated like a circus monkey. He was just like a clown. That's why he didn't want to end up like those poor characters and chose the Park as his first victim. As for Park, he was fuming since he missed lunch and wanted to end the fight right away. Danger? The lead actor didn't even care. Because ours was ready for any kind of filth. Darkness finally fell, and a pack of jackals started fueling the rumors swirling around. As rumors spread that the lead had secret and special training, everyone was eager to watch this bloody fight. A massive crowd, like Judgment Day, was flocking to the arena to watch that legendary showdown between Park and our protagonist. It was packed inside. The boy beside him was about to be speechless with shock, as he'd never seen such a crowd in his life. Jin whispered that the massive impact the protagonist made in his last 2 fights drew people here like a magnet. Actually, this place wasn't about power. It was all about who could get more attention and put on a show. Standing out from the rest was everything. Meanwhile, Park was biting his nails from stress because our guy still hadn't shown up. The people around him had already started mocking the lead actor, thinking he'd be too scared to show up. Park smirked deviously, saying that if Gilsu had escaped, it would be much better for him anyway. Chon looked down, watching in cold silence, like the calm before a storm. The crowd started to go wild when the fight wouldn't start. As for Park, he asked them to finish the job since Gilsu isn't coming. Just then, a strange noise broke out and a mysterious hooded figure suddenly appeared on stage. Everyone was left speechless by the person who arrived. Our protagonist was back, with that charismatic yet strange bald head. Park burst out laughing when he saw it. Did this poor guy think he'd be stronger once he shaved his head? While everyone was joking around, Chon was watching him intently. Then a slight, eerie smile appeared on his face. As Gilsu entered the arena, he calmly stated they could laugh for now, but those smiles would soon freeze on their faces. Park, responding to these words, rolled up his sleeves, claiming he would beat our guy to a pulp. The moment Gilsu said they'd see who prevails, the referee finally gave the long-awaited signal to start. Fists have started talking. At that moment, thinking of his departed old friend, Gilsu grew furious and awakened the beast within. Even if he knew he would die, he was going to win this war. With a flash, he bolted over the Park like a bullet and launched his attack. He threw a heavy left hook, but Park dodged it easily, as if he were a snake. He said spirit alone wasn't enough, then landed a heavy punch on Gilsu and shouted that he'd make him regret fighting. He started raining down ruthless punches, as if the man before him were a lifeless punching bag. Though shaken by his opponent's speed and power, Gilsu remembered walking through the depths of hell and didn't give up. He counterattacked, but he started dodging them all and mocking our guy like the Park was just child's play. Park landed another punch. The audience was getting totally fed up with the protagonist standing there like a lamb to the slaughter. Where did all that initial attitude go? Meanwhile, the referee in the background muttered that the result was exactly as he expected. Everything was going according to plan. If things continued like this, the arena would turn into a bloodbath and the crowd would go wild. But Chong asked if the ref was blind because the fire of ambition in our boy's eyes still hadn't faded. Park mocked Gilsun, saying he was born to be a punching bag, but suddenly took his words back in fear. He noticed the boy had completely stopped defending himself. Gilsu apologized to his master and focused on finishing this fight. He didn't think the last lesson would come this early. Memories of that strange conversation with Chong came flooding back. Once he admitted he had no chance against Park, Chong decided to change that brutal training plan immediately. In seconds, he pounced on Chong, shouting that this crash course would be his true final training. Now he had to fight Chong in person. Before he knew what hit him, Chong landed a heavy punch right to his face. The master asked the stunned Gilsu if he really thought he could survive in the arena by fighting only with his heart. He needed to get serious and attack. Gilsu tried to strike Chong, but it felt like he was hitting thin air. None of his strikes were working. He humiliated Chong, saying such weak hits would only make him a floor mop in the arena. Gilsu wondered how he could turn into such a monster in just a few lessons, but he had no intention of stopping. He never gave up and threw one more punch. Right then, something unexpected happened and he froze in shock. The master asked him if he really wanted to win. At that moment, Gilsu realized his fist had hit the target for the first time. If you wanted victory, you should have forgotten about defense. Now in the arena, with this teaching, our protagonist has gone on a wild attack. The crowd in the stands was shocked. Because our guy was literally raining down a chaotic storm of punches on Park. Jean thought Gilsun had thrown in the towel, but this comeback defied all expectations and left him speechless. This crazy style didn't fit Chang's training at all. Park began to tremble with rage, unable to understand what was happening. He continued to insult his opponent by calling him weak and asking what he hoped to achieve with such reckless strikes. But within seconds, our lead tried to catch Park. He was busy hurling the guy back with rage. While the kid asks what's going on, an uncle in the stands claims the brat will be totally wrecked, but at least he'll die in style. Because this showdown is truly one of a kind. Meanwhile, Park orders the boy to stop attacking like a rabid dog. Right after, our guy chuckles to himself, thinking how everything is working out perfectly according to his sneaky plan. Another memory of the Chang'an fight emerges. It whispers that when defending, you must turn your opponent's futile struggles into a weapon for yourself. That's when the real party was going to start. It was hard to guess what the opponent would do, but standing there like a statue was much simpler. Of course, if he held him too tight, his opponent's fist would explode in his face. So at that moment, he just had to hold on like a punching bag. She says all that grueling training has finally paid off. If he found the slightest opening, he had to strike mercilessly in that very second. Just as Gilsu is about to land a solid punch, he realizes he can't get his defense together, breaking into a cold sweat and panicking about what to do. But at that second, Chong stops. He says the guy should have stopped chasing efficiency from the start, and just created straight-up chaos and mess. So he had to daze his opponents, because those wild, random punches would eventually land right on their most sensitive spot. Back to the present, Gilsu finally lands a punch on Park's face and unleashes a terrifying, unstoppable barrage of attacks. Looks like Park is in a lot of pain. The crowd is shocked, and the genie senses that a firm grip will work amidst these lawless punches. Holding on tight could have been a finishing move. Then Park is forced to retreat. But for our kid, that's not a problem at all. Because he had already thrown his defense away. There was only one path he would follow. Right after, he tries to land that final blow to bury the guy in the arena's dust. But Park skillfully slips away. Gilsun wonders if he's targeting the body first before the face, openly mocking the kid. Still, it wasn't a bad plan. Meanwhile, Chon watches from above with a cold gaze, remembering that dark past. And it notes that the main character's agonizing training has finally come to an end. But no matter what, he should never forget the hard lessons he learned. Because fighting is full of surprises. One must never give up, staying upright in that arena until their last breath and remaining the enemy's nightmare. Afterwards, the guy grabs Park's head, saying he still has a chance and that even this moment is actually part of the plan. Right after that, he lands a solid punch right in the middle of Park's face. Finally, the numbers are starting to add up. The audience is absolutely speechless at this move. Because Gilsu managed to lay out Coca Park in the middle of the arena. But Park gets up from the ground with a smirk, saying this is just the beginning. The crowd goes wild as our guy finally starts showing some teeth. Everyone starts chanting Gilsu's name in unison, making the arena roar. But according to Park, it was just luck. While he lunges at the kid in a blind rage, Gilsu spots a massive opening at that exact moment. First a left jab, then a right hook stuns Park. Within seconds, Gilsu walks toward Park again, advancing like a predator, starting consecutive attacks. Even the referee watching from above agrees that Gilsu is a much more dangerous and crazy guy than he looks. Chom says in a fight like this, the real issue is willpower, because these attacks shatter the opponent's focus and numb their brain. Ibra was now on Gilsu's side. For some reason, Xian starts to sense something's wrong with the Park and that the guy is acting a bit off. The Park looks a bit strange. Meanwhile, as Kam watches the boy from the hill, he recalls that man's words, every effort in the arena must be perfect. In the arena, There was no path but perfection. Now, Velade mutters that this situation is quite embarrassing and frustrating. He takes a different stance, declaring the real fight starts now. Seeing Park's strange guard, our MC feels a surge of unease. Though he hesitates for a second, he has no time to lose. He had to hurry, finish the job, and pack the guy up before time ran out. But within seconds, he's kicked in the face and sent flying away. Before he can even catch his breath, more blows land, leaving him dazed. He takes another kick. Blows are raining down on it. Park says an idiot like him should know his place and crawl on the ground like a bug. He was lower than even a parasite. Gilsu thinks in despair that every blow is like a sledgehammer, leaving absolutely no room for a counterattack. While thinking about how to get out of this hell, he remembers his conversation with the genie. He said he was ready for anything, no matter how dangerous the situation. But the genie had warned him. There was something strange about Park's legs, and those kicks reached a distance far beyond any normal person's range. So he had to be on guard in case of an attack like that. Back to the present, Gilsu finally understands with pain why his friend was being so paranoid. His friend's warning finally hits home. Park walks slowly toward our loser hero and looms over him like a grim reaper. He says those fearful looks really suit her. So he seems intent on finishing the job at once, ending his life and his suffering. Right after that, he fires off a series of kicks, and every one of them lands perfectly. Gilsu is disgusted to see how Park takes sadistic pleasure in his pain. This reminds him of those bullies from the past. It was impossible for him to ever forget those vile people who turned his life into hell for no reason. Because Park was just like those scumbags, but he had no intention of losing this fight. Right after, he blocks the kick with his back, surprising everyone. Park freezes, stunned by this insane move. Because Gilsu really seemed to have managed to take that blow head-on, even at the cost of his life. The crowd is watching with their mouths open. Gilsu is holding that position, letting Park hit him as much as he wants. Because he knows it will hurt less this way. He discovered getting hit from there was a trick. Park says this is ridiculous and asks if they thought such a simple trick could stop him. As Park throws kick after kick, our guy turns his back to defend himself. And the audience bursts out laughing at this pathetic sight. Meanwhile, Jean wonders if there's a hidden genius behind the lead's foolish-looking tactic, or if it's just pure naivety. But the buttocks are considered one of the body's best cushioned shock-absorbing areas. This allows our guy to regain strength and stay up, while Park, whose strikes aren't landing, slowly starts to run out of steam. Right after, he throws a hard punch at Gilsu's head. But our guy manages to dodge this blow by a hair. Thinking those kicks are enough to see the truth, Jean notices Park is slowing down and senses something's fishy. In his last fight, his kicks were like sledgehammers. But now, for some reason, he's showing a strange reluctance to use them. It feels like the risk multiplies as the kick gets stronger. Back to the present, Gilsu is skillfully dodging Park's kicks right now. But he catches something strange in one of those kicks. There's a strange object on the guy's leg that doesn't look normal at all. The moment Gilsu gets distracted, Park lands a heavy punch on his face and complains about how sticky and stubborn he is. But now the end of the road is in sight. Gil kicks Sunu in the face again, saying no matter how tough someone is, no one can withstand a footballer's kick. But despite all this beating, Gilsu still hasn't lost consciousness. The second he notices Park's strikes slowing to a crawl, he grabs Park's leg and flings the guy backward. He thinks your blows feel like they're hitting an iron bar instead of flesh. Even so, Park's speed keeps dropping as he throws kicks. Gilsu has already noticed something, that bright and metallic detail on his knee. Right at that second, he shreds Gilsu Park's clothes to pieces, exposing the hidden metal underneath for everyone to see. Seeing that iron armor on Park's leg, it finally becomes clear why the guy lost his strength and got winded so quickly. The crowd instantly flies into a rage when they see this illegal trick. The official in the stands suggests stopping this disgrace immediately. But Chung signals the referee to wait a bit longer, indicating the end is near and the fight is almost over. Meanwhile, our guy keeps unloading a series of strikes without pause, staring at the pathetic look on Park's face as he lies helpless on the ground. The lead recognizes this look instantly, for it's the expression of pure fear from the depths of a heart with no strength left to resist. Just like those dark days when he was bullied, but that weak kid is long gone. With tears in his eyes, he prepares for the final blow and destroys Park's face, and this dirty fight finally ends tragically. And ours is officially declared the winner. While Gilsu celebrates his victory, Park lies on the ground like a corpse, still in disbelief. He just can't wrap his head around being defeated. He thinks it's not over yet. But Kong, already treating the Park like a useless piece of junk, leaves the place. The angry crowd is throwing things at the guy. But our guy stands over the man and extends his unearned hand like a gentleman, offering to help him up toward the Park. Rubbing his loser face in the fact that he lost despite cheating, they agree to a fairer showdown next time. According to the rules, things should be handled more honestly. The referee thinks this new student is much tougher than expected. He finally realizes this kid has a potential for trouble that's far more dangerous and unpredictable than he ever imagined. Someone from the stands asks if another school has ever lost this much class, saying no one watches these stupid fights. It's a total disgrace for someone like Park to lose to a lowlife. Then Chung enters the arena and asks that man exactly what he's after. The man states the arena has become a dumping ground and he can't stand it anymore. That's why he'll be the new ruler. He doesn't fail to add that he thought Chang'un had died somewhere. But Chung is standing right there in a fighting stance. Chung says he'll personally show him the real rules of this arena. As the tension between the two peaks, he watches closely and asks Jean who this guy is. It says this guy fought Chung for leadership before Jinda Arena was founded. He was the rival for his strongest ocean. While warming up, he's reminiscing and wondering if Chung is already scared. Chung says old memories are coming back to life. Then the guy attacks, saying, "You caused all this fuss for that pile of junk?" The crowd is in shock at the monstrous and massive power the guy is displaying. But Chung dodges this brutal attack as light as a feather. Even though he starts raining down punches, Chung keeps dodging. Gilsu is amazed at how a human body can move so freely and wonders what will happen if Chung loses. Jean whispers that if Chung loses, the arena will collapse, and all authority will pass to this man. Adam claims Chang'un has always been a coward who only knows how to run, while he himself is much different now. He launches another attack. Chung tries to slip away again, but this time he can't escape a hard blow to the jaw. He looks pretty happy now that he's finally landed a solid hit. Wasting no time, he starts launching one brutal attack after another. He says he should have finished Chang'un off already instead of mocking his cool attitude. Ours is having a total pathetic ego trip. Gilsu is frozen in shock by what he sees. Chang'un is brooding over exactly how to take down that massive beast. Looking at the current scene, the guy is completely dominating the fight. Then he prepares for that famous and lethal finishing blow. Even though Chang'un has declared defeat, the young lion hasn't thrown in the towel yet. Right after that, he lands a heavy punch right on the guy's face. He states this is a total waste of time and shows everyone it's finally time to end it all. He delivers a solid knee strike right to the guy's stomach. With the force of the blow, the man flies out of the arena just like a missile. This goes down in history as the most legendary match in this arena. Then Chung quietly looks to the side and assesses the situation. When he realizes Park is trying to escape, he sternly reminds him that breaking the rules must carry a penalty. He orders Parker to lie down right in front of him. Moments later, Park falls to his knees in the middle of the arena, paralyzed by fear. Chang'un thinks he's going to wreck himself with that iron bar. If he took a hit from a monster like that, it'd be impossible to survive. Even though he starts to beg, Chung doesn't listen, only sternly ordering him to kneel where he is. Park fell to Chang'un's knees, pathetically claiming he regrets everything and was actually forced into it. He claims he only committed this crime because he was a victim and swears he'll never act this way again. Chung bows before him and calmly reminds him once more that he just wants him to lie down properly. In tears, Park realizes he's reached the end of the road and there's no way he'll make it out alive. As Chung prepares to strike, he warns him never to act so insolently again if he doesn't want to get beaten up. He starts the attack but stops at the last second. Even so, Park has already wet himself from that fear. As the crowd bursts into laughter at this sight, Chung turns and asks Park that famous question. He asks if she's ashamed of what she did in the arena, and says he'll forgive her this time, but only this once. But next time, he'll never have mercy. Kang watches from a distance as Chung prepares to make a major announcement. Today, he is clearly declaring to everyone what a real arena looks like and that everyone can fight there with their own strength. However, he stresses with all seriousness that cheating will never be allowed and only absolute justice will prevail here. He explicitly warns everyone that far more dire consequences await those who break the rules outside the school arena. So they should think twice before acting. Because here, only true warriors who act with their strength and by the arena rules count. They are the ones who truly deserve respect. The entire arena audience goes absolutely wild after hearing this impressive speech. Then Chung tells them to wait. Because he really was the undisputed and only famous leader of this arena. Sometime later, Chung is seen practicing. At that moment, someone comes over to greet him. The person arriving is none other than our lead, and Chung clearly says he has nothing left to teach him. Even if he wants the boy to go home if he's here for training again, the kid only came to say something. Chung closes the matter by saying it wasn't necessary, as he was simply doing what he had to do. Gilsu wonders why she's being so cold and asks what her real reason for helping him is. Because Gilsu was the first person personally trained by him, and he really learned a lot of vital things from him. Chung says he's using Gil water to prove that one must train with all their might to evolve. Gilsu went through everything for this, and hearing these words from Chunggun, he can do nothing but fall into a deep silence. The scene shifts to another arena of relentless, brutal fights, right into that endless competition. A mysterious figure arrives at the arena, saying it's been a long time, while another mentions Chung's progress. Even without a master by his side, he was doing quite well, yet it seemed like nothing remained of his former self. Turns out the guy is a former leader. Soon after, Kang suddenly appears to greet him. While waiting for good news, Kang starts explaining that a law-breaking scumbag has appeared and is disturbing the peace. What's surprising is that this guy's power was on a massive, incomparable level compared to Chung. Our protagonist doesn't fully grasp what his master meant, but thanks him from the bottom of his heart anyway. After Chunggun's legendary speech, the arena slowly returns to its expected calm, peaceful, yet harsh atmosphere. Fighting through fierce battles, he also underwent a truly massive transformation within himself. He finally learned to forge his destiny with his fists, losing himself completely in the dark and alluring world of the arena. He couldn't even make a single move because of that suffocating atmosphere. For when that critical chance finally arose, he would shatter his limits and lose himself in the bloody rhythm of war. And a while later, a girl wonders why her patience is being tested so much. The man roared that even though he ordered that idiot to bring the girls, he still got beaten up, and now he would make them pay dearly. But just as he was about to attack, he shouted a warning to the girl. Before the girl could even ask who they were, a fist like a falling sledgehammer floored the guy in seconds. When Kang set the rule that you never hit a woman, the other girl realized Sixth Door is truly on another level. Gilsu, as if the world weren't burning, asked Maya if she was hurt anywhere. But the girl cheekily said that compared to the torturous training at the 6 gates, this was child's play, and she actually felt great. Because if it wasn't for our guy, his bones would probably be in a bag. Right then, some kid was asking why everyone was outside and if there were any other rooms available at the hotel. The other girl desperately asked why he was so late, wondering if he had any idea what had happened when those thugs showed up. But the boy, quite confused, claimed that no one was there. In a back alley, a group of guys were eyeing him, thinking he was a member of the 6 gates. They had already heard of their reputation, but if they truly were the 6 Door members, they were certain others would take care of it. Because sooner or later they would make him pay a very heavy price for what he did. After a while, as Mai floated beside our main character, she asked him how hard he had trained to fight so well. Gilsu made it clear that calling it just training would be an understatement. He went through some very strange and dark paths. Mai said she was grateful that she could take care of herself, thanks to Chang's insane training. Meanwhile, our hero faced the fact that the girl was truly that monster's sister, and a slight shiver ran through him. Remembering how much his brother looked out for him after the transfer, he felt a deep debt of gratitude. The girl had an epiphany and asked if he was that famous, weird guy her brother always talked about. Gilsu froze in amazement. It turns out the mysterious person Chong mentioned at every chance was actually this girl herself. Thinking that the girl knew all those shameful details was a source of embarrassment for Gilsu, like his charisma being buried in a coffin. Right after, the girl said she was very intrigued by her brother's story and held out her phone to him like a prize. He still couldn't believe he was facing that legendary figure. So they had to exchange numbers somehow, at least. Gilsu desperately gave his number. The scene suddenly shifts to a dark, eerie construction site where someone is being beaten like a sack of grain. A poor soul with a sack over his head was sobbing and screaming that he couldn't breathe, begging like a dog for them to spare his life. The other man said in a cold voice that he had repeatedly warned him, if he wanted to live, he had to cough up that money somehow. But the victim didn't have a penny, and trembling, stated he was ready to sell his soul just to pay his debt. The man said then it was time to be a player, just like last time. The boy was ready to do anything to make them stop. The man standing up delivered a dark speech, saying that if he took money from someone, that debt would be paid, even if the cost was his own life. Another guy started talking about a girl who dared to stand up to the neighborhood's notorious gang. They had to put him in his place, but their leader just slapped the boy hard and scolded him for getting beaten by a woman. The boy tried to smooth things over, but the furious man was foaming at the mouth because he tarnished the gang's glorious name. The other brat tremblingly confessed that the person they fought wasn't just some woman, but a fearsome member of the Six Doors. If that guy hadn't interfered, everything would have been perfect. The leader muttered with a devious smile that this would be fun. Meanwhile, Jim and his sidekicks were strutting through the halls like they owned the school, causing a total scene. The other guy was furious. If it weren't for Jimin's unnecessary showing off, his bones wouldn't have had to be broken in the arena. Meanwhile, Gilsu was busy flirting on the phone with Mai, who was probably completely unaware of the world and the schemes going on. While thinking about how sweet the girl was, his eyes suddenly shifted towards Sarah Lodo, and he didn't like what he saw. He watched the scene in silence, wincing slightly as he saw someone crawling on the ground, begging and promising to do anything they were asked. He was surprised to see it was the poor park that collapsed. But Kong slapped him with the truth that his existence was just an excess. He made it clear that a coward who wets himself in the middle of the arena can't survive in this harsh world. He doesn't belong here. Saying anyone else would have quit long ago, he leaned his full weight on our hero's shoulder with a cheeky attitude. Sensing that dealing with these shady types would end in disaster, Jim whispered in their ears that they should clear out immediately. Gilsu wondered why guys like Park would serve a sociopath like Ken and go down this path of no return. Hanging out with bullies might have seemed like a cool game within school walls, but the bloody face of real life was far different. The peace of the neighborhood was shattered as a dangerous outside gang, who didn't belong there, had emerged. They were like a secret, dangerous crime syndicate with deep roots, even infiltrating the police force. They were massive and dark. Even politicians were involved, and the gang leader's ambitious young son, Kam, was at the center of this dirty business. Born into extreme wealth, this guy was definitely a source of power for low-life punks like Park to worship. While Gilsu grew tense, sensing the neighborhood's atmosphere becoming increasingly eerie, Maha was walking alone through the dark and deserted streets. Her part-time job lasted longer than expected, and her only dream was to get home and sleep soundly in her bed. Suddenly a footstep appeared behind him, and a girl in tattered clothes immediately began begging Maha for help in despair. Maha immediately took in the poor girl, who said she was fleeing from a gang, and added right then and there that she shouldn't be afraid and he'd call the police. But the other girl persuaded her to enter a spooky, narrow, and dark alley, claiming they'd be caught immediately if they ran. Just then, a guy emerged from the shadows and said with a smirk that they'd found someone much better than the prey they were hunting. Maha reacted sharply to these filthy scumbags who thought their luck had turned, immediately warning them to leave the girl alone. When the man mockingly asked if she was sure she didn't like the situation, Mayan started to get really confused. Stunned by the taser in seconds, Maya heard right then how much the girl he just helped actually hated stupid men. Facing this girl who enjoyed trapping and scaring the pure and innocent like Maha, our hero lay helpless on the ground and asked for her true identity right then and there. Then another group emerged from the shadows, saying they'd heard of Maha's fighting skills and openly wondering with great appetite if they could really have some fun with him. As the scene shifts back to the prison, Khan was probably telling someone that he'd do his best and everything was under his control.
Okul içinde
He stated right then and there with that ice-cold voice that they would resort to much harsher methods if their plans within the school didn't work. But the man, bluntly and brazenly, reminded Kanga to know his place, saying only those who have been collared before can collar someone else. Thinking his father would get him out in a few months, this guy kept making terrible revenge plans while counting the days inside. To protect the family reputation, he had to stay in the shadows for now. Once free, he would quietly settle all these debts and unfinished business one by one. While Kong reluctantly accepted the situation, the scene suddenly shifted to the main character's naive and overexcited friend. With great excitement, he told all his friends his dream finally came true and a girl asked him out. Isu honestly admitted to having no such experience and passed the ball back to her friend, who was expecting urgent dating tips for a weekend meetup. Jean made an excuse that he had to work out at the gym, saying he didn't really care about his friend's romantic crisis. The young man felt like the luckiest guy in the world because the girl made the first move, and he was truly having the time of his life. Jean teased that he'd lost count of how many times his friend got their hopes up only to end up disappointed. Gilsu, pitying the boy's poor state and thinking this might be a real signal of love, immediately offered to help him. When their cornered friend promised burgers as a reward, the team suddenly found themselves eating together at a popular restaurant. While ours is shaking like a leaf with excitement, the genie is questioning how many drinks he's had. Gilsu silently watched this hilarious scene. Seeing his friend so helpless for the first time, Gilsu suddenly recoiled at the sight of that familiar face entering the restaurant. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw May enter the restaurant, but his friend was already calling her name out loud. What nerve! But it wasn't him who came. The other girl next to her apologized repeatedly for being late, gave a cheerful greeting, and suddenly plopped down at the table. While his friend introduced our group, Gilsu was trying to figure out who this mysterious girl really was. When the girl his friend liked turned out to be Maya, the question marks in Gilsu's head suddenly started to grow. While our hero was captivated by her beauty, the other girl curiously asked how her friend's school life was really going. Since she only saw him at the gym, she wondered what he was like at school. Ours replied as usual. Will Gilsu stay? He jumped right in and totally called out his friend, saying he just sleeps in class and never listens. While everyone was laughing and having fun, Gilsu felt that awkward sense of exclusion, unable to join the conversation. When Maya noticed his silence and called out to him, our hero suddenly became the center of attention and didn't know what to do. The boy's attitude, explaining to the girl who thought she didn't like talking that she actually did, seemed to soften Maya a bit. When Maya confessed to feeling like an outsider everywhere, our hero realized they shared the same fate and really took a liking to her. Wanting to lighten the mood, Maya quickly convinced the team to go to a nice karaoke spot she knew. Gilsu had to follow them, not knowing what to do in that strange embarrassment that replaced his previous ease. Even when they finally reached the karaoke room, that tension and awkward energy in the air just wouldn't fade. But his friend was deeply offended by something. Suddenly Jimin grabbed her shoulder and told the girls to go on ahead. Supposedly, the three of them were going to the bathroom to freshen up together. When Jim asked what happened, his friend caught him off guard by asking why he was so honest. While questioning why they were so close, Gilsu jumped in as if there was a long story behind it. He dashed into the karaoke room first so no one would worry, but Gilsu didn't miss the chance to throw a parting jab. They were constantly at each other's throats when together. Meanwhile, our guy was totally love-struck, picturing May's face. While he was rambling about how elegant her name was, some brute came up and asked her why she was so tense. He told her to loosen up and started harassing her to go to the other room with his pervert friends. Then our protagonist showed up right on top of them. The man wondered if she really had such a spineless bodyguard by her side. He totally crossed the line, treating him like a fool and questioning why the girl would even hang out with such an idiot. The girl just wanted him to take his filthy hand off her. At that moment, our lead lunged at the man, but things got messy. The girl grabbed the guy by the collar, yelled that she'd smash his face in, and flattened him like a sack of potatoes. Gilsu stood frozen at the sight of this brutality. The girl's been fuming ever since that guy held Main's hand. The girl who noticed Gilsu said not to let Main's delicate look fool you. She's actually a total troublemaker. The girl was actually quite scary. Then that scoundrel tried to punch the girl, but his beating wasn't over yet. The other girl whispered that May's brother had taught her how to defend herself, basically how to beat people up, since they were little. Ordinary men were no match for him. The fact that he was Chion's brother from the 6 doors would have caused a huge stir. Gilsu was shocked by what he heard. Turns out she's her master's own little sister. Pure irony. Back to the present, Yahoo was in "let the fun begin" mode. The other type argued that the girl made a big mistake. If he thought he'd mess with his crew and make it out alive, he was wrong. Now it was this girl's turn to die of regret. Yunho sized up the man and realized he was the culprit from the karaoke fight. The other girl was smugly mocking the situation. He asked if the shock was impressive. Yahoo smirked, implying that things were about to get a whole lot hotter. At that moment, the girl tried to stand up, but she had no strength left. But within seconds, something unexpected happened. He narrowly escaped an attack. Yahoo saw with surprise that he could still move. The woman next to him froze too. It was a miracle he could even move after all those electric shocks. So they decided to give him a few more shocks. And boom. Another electric shock went off. He threatened the girl, saying it would have been over in one blow if she had behaved. But by now, the girl was completely out of energy. The guy left the girl and started asking what Jaiho was going to do. He offered with a smirk that if she left the girl to him, he could give her a lesson so severe and entertaining she'd never forget it. Jaiho said the girl was useful and ordered her to be packed up. But at that exact second, an ominous silence filled the air. Someone was walking toward them, and once that guy recognized the shadow before him, he began to shake with fear to his very bones. He took the fatal blow and dropped dead in seconds. While Jaiho was trying to understand what was going on, our lead appeared on stage. Ours was fuming with rage. He cursed himself, thinking that if he'd been a bit faster, this disgrace wouldn't have happened. 30 minutes before the incident, our protagonist was walking down the street, playing on his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. He wondered what the girl was up to and texted her. A modern-day hero, yet the troubles are always the same. He was surprised the girl replied at the speed of light. He said he was going back to work, but the place just didn't look safe. Right then, an incredibly weird message popped up on his phone, and his brain literally short-circuited. Back to the present, Yenwu was hesitant about coming here because of that weird message, but found himself in this chaos. The view was terrible. In a bit, that loser realized the guy coming through the 6th door was the famous one, and started talking nonsense. They were talking trash about Jaiho. The guy said they've already drawn first blood and there's no going back. He added that those lowlifes from the 6 gates are very impatient, and just as annoying. Gilsu had the final word, declaring they hit the wrong rock, and he finished them all off one by one. The other guy lunged at our hero, asking what he could do alone, but Gilsu brushed off the blow like he was playing with a child. He gave that fat guy such an Ottoman slap, he didn't know what hit him. Right then, 2 more guys tried to jump him. But ours knew exactly how to slip through effortlessly, and take them both down in one move. Compared to the 6 Gates gang, these guys were just local thugs. So, it didn't matter one bit to our hero how many of them came. They're like buzzing flies to him, yet he narrowly dodged a sudden kick. Jaiho mumbled that he's always been curious about the legend of the 6 Gates. Right after, he grabs a metal rod and starts swinging it at our guy mercilessly. Our hero is dodging blows for dear life. Surprised by his opponent's speed, Gilsu finally finds an opening and positions himself to deliver a solid kick. To teach this arrogant person a lesson for judging others without talent, he delivers a hard kick to Jaiho's chest. Barely blocking the attack, Jaiho notices his opponent has become very aggressive. Gilsu says this is just a warm-up. He's offering an honest duel, asking if you can fight without that piece of wood. At those critical seconds, the guy trips him, and our hero hits the ground. But luckily it lands on a very soft surface. Jae-ho admits with a sigh that dealing with this guy is much more annoying and challenging than he thought. So he says the girl needs to step in and handle this annoying guy. And right at that moment, things change. Il-sun is seen collapsing right on top of the woman. Ours just wants to sink into the ground out of shame. As he stammers that it was a total accident, the girl remarks on how cute his embarrassed state actually is.
Yeah.
When he notices the stun gun in her hand, he realizes he's the next victim. Right at that second, things heat up. The girl attacks our hero with the stun gun in her hand. Gilsu is brooding over how to escape this electric shock. But right then, Mai leaps up and snatches the device from the girl's hand. Frozen in shock, the woman says she was sure Mai was unconscious and tries to figure out what's going on. Mai is telling him everything that just happened. He details that he got a lucky break, saying when Jae-ho hit him, a piece of wood just snapped off right then and there. He says he used this piece of wood as an insulator to cancel out the shock. Jae-ho is getting seriously worked up about this situation. While cursing at the girl for not finishing the job right, Gilsu asks Mai if she's okay. Mai feels grateful to him. He says he gained time to recover thanks to Gilsu. Then both of them take their fighting stances. Jae-ho is still angry. He's showing off, claiming he doesn't want to escalate things, but that the outcome won't change anyway and they'll all end up the same. He's asking if they thought things would change without a defibrillator. But within seconds, a heavy punch lands right on his face. After taking a clean punch from our guy, Gilsu makes it clear he'll teach him the painful price of crossing the line. Turning to Mai, we see her immediately enter a fierce confrontation with the other woman. Both of them are raising their guards to play their final cards. Mai delivers a harsh blow to her opponent. He says if she wants him to shut up, she should have done her job right from the start. The other girl says it's fun to beat up people like him. That's exactly why he says it's so much fun to crush guys like that. On the Gilsu front, it looks like Jae-ho is already a goner. But it's not over yet. The man asks if this is all his strength and announces that the real game starts now. The real war starts now. Right after, he's caught on camera popping something mysterious and unknown into his mouth. He quickly attacks ours and throws a punch that's impossible to parry. Even if Gilsu forcibly blocks it, more keeps coming. The second punch breaks through his defense. Jae-ho says he's already figured out his opponent's fighting style and knows him like the back of his hand. That's why he's shouting that it's impossible to defeat him. Gilsu is stunned by how this guy suddenly turned into such a monster. Jae-ho asks if he's grasped the situation because his usual showy talk is nowhere to be found. Right then, Gilsu can't believe he's facing such a monster, but he suddenly turns it around by saying he's actually very lucky. He shouts that this is his favorite type of opponent, grabs the guy by the throat, and unleashes a storm of blows on him. He slams his head into the guy's face as the breathtaking melee heats up by the second. Jae-ho is shocked by this sudden pressure. Gilsu asks how curious you are about that famous lower gate technique. He whispers that this is only a level 1 punch. The moment Jae-ho takes the punch, he hangs in midair and starts flying. As Jae-ho hits the ground, Gilsu quickly reminds him that blind courage isn't enough to face an old legend. He remembers the man swallowed a pill before attacking him, but he's focused on the main issue, wondering where Mai is. He's checking if he's with the other woman. But when he looks to the side, he sees Mai has already cleaned the place up. He thinks Mai has once again proven she's truly her brother's sister. The girl is clutching the other woman by the collar. He wonders why you got involved in such dirty business. The woman says desperately that she only did it for the money and has no connection. Gilsu starts thinking about this mysterious group, because he'd survived similar trouble before. He's trying to figure out who they are. The woman is begging, saying she doesn't know why they're paying to do these disgusting things. Gilsu is getting very suspicious of this group. While questioning why they spend fortunes on such horrific things, he's trying to understand the true intent behind it. While the woman is still trembling, the veil of secrets slowly begins to lift for this dark group. Ours starts questioning what they truly know, revealing every detail of that dark past to them, one by one. Because the Karakam group was a mysterious high school society that suddenly appeared and spread terror in the Yamyong district. Their influence was so massive that it was impossible to call them just a gang. Even the most notorious criminals knelt before them. While there were tough groups in the area, this formation's growth rate was truly terrifying, and Gilsu steps in to ask. He wonders if there are any clubs affiliated with them in high school. But the girl prefers to remain ignorant. But it was clear the real target was the Six Gates, if they could turn those kids there into players, as Jaeho said. They would get a chance to join the Five Dragons, and the story finally returns to that tense present moment. Gilsu questions why the Karakam group is still targeting the Six Gates, despite having taken over almost all the schools. Because they hadn't brought it to its knees yet. The girl says she's spilled everything she knows and tries to get out of there immediately. But at that exact second, Mei pulls her daughter back hard, preventing her escape and escalating the tension. He's questioning where you think you're going and says they're not done talking yet. After a while, he walks with our hero Mei. He is apologizing to the girl with great embarrassment for the unfortunate and disturbing events that happened to her. Even though she's sad about this situation affecting her own school, Mei maintains a very calm attitude. Because of that unbreakable blood bond with the Six Gates, he already knew this disaster would happen sooner or later. While Gilsu feels a deep sense of unease, no matter what Karakam does, he can't escape that feeling of relief inside. Because as long as Chong stands tall, he firmly believes those thugs will never, ever defeat the Six Gates. Plus, the skill level of the kids wreaking havoc on the field that day was on another level, and Mei confirms this by praising her brother. Mentioning his brother is in another league, he thanks Gilsu for helping him twice. The scene jumps elsewhere, and Jaeyu is getting a major scolding from someone in a dark corner. A mysterious man says Jaeyu's biggest problem is not knowing his place and constantly meddling in unnecessary business. Jaeyu is officially asking for forgiveness, claiming he took such a path to completely conquer that region. Right after, the man steps on Yehu's face, crushing him and ruthlessly asserting his authority. He says the plan to take over that school would have worked perfectly even without the interference of a loser like him. And since that day, he explains that Jaeyu will be turned into an actor. The poor boy begins to beg in tears. But the man says watching this miserable, tragic state would be fun and invites him to the Colosseum. Meanwhile, one guy looks at the mindless group fleeing their homes and vents about how pathetic they look in a degrading tone. When asked if they all dream of joining the Celestial Wind, the other boy enthusiastically agrees. They naively explain how they've been struggling on the streets for a month and heard that free food and beds are provided here. Before the kid can even finish his sentence, a heavy punch sends him flying into the wall. But the man laughs, mocking this helplessness. When he roars, "Do you think this is a charity?" the cowardly crowd scatters like a flock of birds. While everyone's desperately apologizing, the man notes these rookies have no loyalty or energy left. While complaining that it's impossible to find talented and tough men these days, the guy next to him chimes in to explain why. He says the real cause of this human shortage and lack of skill is that oppressive empire established by the Karakam group. There wasn't a single useful soul left on the market anymore. The other guy realizes they now have to change the status quo. They emphasize that they can't just remain a simple family, but must expand their influence much further. And then the park appears. Why Goxel is in such bad shape in the middle of this wind is a great mystery. Two people suddenly pounce on him, trying to put him in his place by asking how he dared to come here. As for Park, he claims he's here for the interview and is on a much higher level than those losers who ran away. The other man, consumed by rage, shouts that he can't hold back anymore and will end this insolence. Why would they take back a traitor who abandoned them once? His character alone is grounds for disqualification. Park says he is fully aware of his past mistakes and sins, so he is willing to accept whatever comes. When he states he's willing to do even the dirtiest and most vile tasks, a diabolical smile appears on the man's face. The next day, Gilsu says he's completely exhausted from yesterday's events, and everything hurts like crazy. As he crawls toward the school infirmary hoping to find medicine, he notices a group of students whispering about the park. They whispered that the boy went through such hard times that his heart turned to ice. They thought if they asked nicely, he wouldn't refuse, so they planned to pull him back to their side and use him again. As for Park, he told them to cut the small talk and get to the point, sternly asking why they were acting so strange and unnecessary. The guy suddenly approached the kid and said he acts too much like a tough guy, then mentioned some annoying rumors he'd heard. He heard he was on good terms with those lowlifes at Senate Wind. Hanging out with those idiots must have been such a waste of time and hilarious. He wanted Park to be his tool for fun, but our guy didn't buy into that nonsense, and started walking away immediately. Park said he wouldn't get involved in this dirty business, while the other acted all righteous and asked why he was being
Onu
ignored.
takmadı.
He angrily threw a soda can at Park, but in seconds, things flipped and the guy didn't know what hit him. Park kicked the box back in his face and yelled that he only put up with them because of Kandon, and that no one could treat him like a parasite. It was a total lapse of judgment, even downright laughable, for them to think they could treat her that way after she quit. After they left, while the guy was still talking trash, Park wagged his finger and shut him down with that one killer question. What were you doing at such a crappy school anyway? You just had to stay close to Kong and sit there quietly. After a while, thinking they didn't care at all, Park walked calmly until someone called his name from behind. Asking the young man to wait, he tried to understand why he'd done something so crazy and what he was after. He said they could make up for the arena incident with a rematch, but this time he's offering a fair, man-to-man fight by your rules. Park grabbed the kid by the collar and told him to watch his back at night because he'd pack him up and finish him off the first chance he saw him outside. He walked away, grumbling that his whole day was ruined. He left behind a confused, terrified, and angry young man. Gilsu knew this didn't concern him, but for some reason, that feeling of unease just wouldn't go away. A mysterious letter fell from Park's jacket while walking, and our Yusuf spotted it immediately and fixated on it. On the other hand, while a group of parasites was hanging out, some guy said this week was a total disaster and that they looked pathetic. Everything was ruined by those Heaven's Wind punks collecting tribute in their territory, and it was enough to push everyone to the edge. The others said that although they're many, they're all unskilled, and they'll handle the wind of heaven, so there's no need to worry. Just then, he approached the park slowly, and the group instantly noticed a familiar silhouette appearing at the door. Park gave them only two options. They would either become slaves to the winds of paradise, or pack their bags and get the hell out of here. When he asked what they were going to do, the group burst into laughter, acting as if the kid had just told them a joke. They asked if this was the famous park where people hung out near the river, and just hearing its name was enough to amuse them. Just as they were wondering if he'd return to his old dump, a flashback kicked in. He was saying that man had his eye on that idiot Magan's territory. That's why the park had to take care of it. If he pulled this off, maybe they'd consider letting him back in the gang. Who knows? Back to the present, the park knew it had no other chance to regain its former prestige. That's why he came back, ready to risk it all. Right after, two punks jumped our hero, asking if he came alone to die, but they were dead wrong. Park easily parried the attack, but the other guy had already made his move. Still, to Park, these attacks were nothing more than a buzzing fly. The strike did nothing at all. They were speechless with shock when they saw how tough the guy's arm was. The group burst from the house, and Park told them in a firm voice to dive in all at once. Now, things were going to reek of blood. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you don't want to miss what's next, smash that notification bell right now so you'll know. See you all in the next legendary showdown on my TB channel. Take care of yourselves, guys.